In the previous episode, the master of the Bloody Blade single-handedly executed all the members of the Imperial Palace Guardians Hall. They had no time to do anything and each head fell dead as if falling asleep. Before the cruel scene unfolding before their eyes, the remaining warriors were speechless. All wondering, what the hell was going on? The aura of the sword looked terrifying. Their leader also couldn't see it. Who are those people? What is their status? The evil woman walked towards his place and cursed silently, "What a bunch of trash." The Imperial Palace Guardians Hall hidden underneath the Great Imperial Tomb is made up of 7 rooms. The 7 order of formation includes, first central room, then first room up to 7th room and finally prison. The last deep position is 7th room, and the 2nd and 3rd supremes are rarely allowed entry. The face of the middle-aged man accompanying the Bloodblade Master became drenched, despite protecting his body with his inner energy, but the temperature seemed too high, beyond the normal level. The heat around them seemed not to be it must be natural, it was as if the underground hall wanted to chase them away. He turned to ask the master, "It's just normal, if it's hot, just take off your shirt." He tried to think of a reason to explain. Solved, but it was completely useless. The Bloodblade Master didn't sweat at all, as if the heat didn't have much of an effect. Truly worthy of being one of the masters of the 6 martial arts sect executive. Putting aside useless worries on one side, he used his internal strength to handle the heat that was invading his body. Immediately after that, the two saw the end of the passage. Just as they were about to enter the passage, a white wall appeared before their eyes. It's strange to see it at the end of this road, there doesn't seem to be any other entrance. When approaching the wall, an inscription engraved on the wall that seems to be towards the door appears. Suddenly anyone who covets the treasures here will forever be trapped here and will die miserably. For those who try to escape by force, you will also slowly die. Dream Words Lake and contains ominous warnings. I thought it was just an ordinary wall, but when I got closer I saw that this wall was built with bricks. As I said, the Bloodblade Master also tried to touch it, ignoring the dangers that had just been read. From a distance it looked like a simple pure white wall, but up close one realized how it was made by stacking bricks. There was only one possibility, so she deliberately went deeper. From inside the bricks are linked into a strange shape. They deliberately did that so that if the road collapsed, the entire structure of this place would also collapse. See, looks like there's something inside. Let's go in quickly, we're just doing meaningless things. Felt that the servant's words were quite satisfactory, so we both slowly entered. The heat was getting more and more terrible, it was like walking through a volcano. At the same time, at the Royal Palace, the Imperial Palace Guardians Hall 4th room, human corpses were lying around in a large space, blood was also everywhere. Preliminary estimates were it seemed like there were about 50 dead people. Only one person was still breathing in that place, with his clothes covered in blood. He seemed to be doing something with the corpses. A sect master like me and had to stand here in pain. Did the demon sect's sword attack on the bodies of this group of people? But it should be almost done. The Bloodgate's main sword probably has also reached the place where the treasure is. We need to hurry. There are about 6 other corpses left, then he completes the job. As he quickly approached the next body, he felt a sudden flow of internal force being released from the common path. Could it be that reinforcements had already arrived here? Why so quickly? With a feeling of curiosity, he turned my head and looked at the door. A voice rang out. My nose was stuffy because of the horrible smell of blood. A young guard wearing yellow armor appeared, so I found it. Wow, I finally caught up to you. How miserable, a brat like him dares to point his finger at me. He looks like him in the Supreme Peak at most, yet he's so arrogant. Because he doesn't want to show off, cheeky or overconfident, and just to be sure, immediately asked, "Did you come here by yourself?" He replied, "What's that got to do with you?" He was taken aback for a moment by that silly answer. Rope, there's definitely a problem with this guy's nervous nerves. Good, I'm bored too. Today I'll show you what politeness is. Hit then hit, more or less. Hiob bong is confident because there's a boss following me. I don't know why you dare to be so arrogant. As he spoke, the exquisite sword energy spread out and quickly reached Hiob bong's throat. Hopefully you will be able to endure this longer than them. At that moment, a sinister smile appeared, even though you won't see. The sudden release of internal force, starting to warn every nerve cell in the body. The sudden release of another internal force that scares him. Just follow his instincts. Ability to raise your hand to block. Not only that, internal energy always appears at critical weak points, as if playing cards. In a split second, internal energy spreads around, it appears and then pierces straight through the chest guy. Everything happened so fast, giving this guy no chance to avoid or block. Even so, but as a 6 martial arts sect executive, how could he be suppressed? He had a firm grip on the long sword. Then he continued to endure pain and launched dozens of sword attacks in response. When he saw that he was not successful, he quickly stepped back and took a defensive stance. When you see that you are not successful, you quickly step back and take a defensive stance. I didn't sense his presence at all. He overpowered me with just one move. I didn't expect that the Cam Yi Wei also had someone this strong. It was true that they were the people of the Cam Yi Wei, but they were the people of the Thien Ma sect leader in disguise. I avoided the attack, didn't hit an important place, but the internal injuries were too serious. I had to endure it until help arrived. He was said to have used the method of killing people from the demon religion. The plan of the sect was successful, but unexpectedly the leader of the demon sect appeared in front of him. The sword swung out. Hiob Bong put his arm into his collection of martial artists' arms. Fresh blood spilled out onto the floorhouse, a horrible scene, but it was so normal for him. How cruel. Do you think I wouldn't know if we used our martial arts to pull tricks like this? He didn't understand at first. What did Hiob Bong say? This person is a follower of the demon sect, and how could he be here? When he didn't know what to do, the sect leader himself immediately borrowed his remaining arm. Named 6 martial arts sect executive screamed in pain, but Hiob Bong's expression was as cold as money. Every time you don't give me a proper answer, I will cut off one of your arms and legs. He was surprised at the way he calmly talked about cutting off legs and arms. This bastard, is he crazy? Imperial Palace Guardians Hall 6th room. The last line of defense before entering the underground hall is the battlefield where a battle takes place. Fierce battle. Each one of them possesses a martial prowess equal or higher than mine. Why would something like this come to the Imperial Palace Guardians Hall? Moreover, that bloody sword monster bastard, just with a move that cut off both of my arms. Like this I can only stand by and watch my other teammates slowly die. That's true, and this is no longer a battle but a war of survival. Luck. The royal palace still had loyal people, and were not afraid of death. Ignoring the general losing both arms, they still boldly rushed forward to stop the invaders. The defense did not go deeper. But that was only the spirit, but in reality, even women, prostitutes, eunuchs and the like, all died miserably under the sharp blade. Blood's orders. Blade Master, then these guys are only allowed to deal with all but one person must be left. Now the survivors are trembling in fear, when they hear the sound of counting the number. There are only 5 people left, so let's handle it. 5 people compared to the original 50 people was so terrible, they couldn't have thought that the outcome would be far from the initial predictions. At that time something like mud fell on the heads of the 6 martial arts sect executive. None of them cared because they thought that the falling mud-like object was the result of the fierce battle that happened underground. But when a few guys paid closer attention, they quickly shouted loudly to remind the steel blade master to get out of the way quickly. A water stain appeared causing the ceiling to break and smash down. Large rocks comparable to giant rocks were falling to the floor. Then giant rocks were falling from the ceiling, sending dust flying everywhere and obscuring everyone's sight. Even though the place was a bit messy, the guy with the spear still breathed a sigh of relief when avoiding the large rocks. Luckily I was almost crushed to death. As the dust gradually cleared, he could gradually see the outline of a human figure. Even though he could saw someone, but he couldn't feel any internal force from that person. It was like a normal person who didn't learn martial arts. The mysterious figure gently shook his hand in the air and the dust was covering the area. This area soon calmed down. And all the people of 6 martial arts sect executives saw that person. Steel Blade Master was sweating in fear, when he realized that just waving his hand and the smoke and dust disappearing was terrible. He tried to observe the tall, elegant guy wearing the clothes of a royal guard and wondered who he really was. Before that, Yo Woon had gotten a little information from that bastard who tried to harm the demon god religion, by leaving wounds from his sect. A few hours ago, the guy who was tortured and had his hands and feet slashed by the sect leader also gave information about his accomplices that there were 4 people. He is no longer with. What other way could there be other than saying it out loud? All it takes is a liberating death rather than having to live and die like this. Suddenly the surrounding temperature started to rise. Sure enough, he had a neck in his head poisonous. Is it because of this that it was spread? Yo Woon had no other choice but to behead the guy before he tried to defend himself with the internal energy running wildly in his body. Maybe the cult leader has firmly affirmed that the 6 martial arts sect executive invaded to search for the Kirin blood. If it is in the hands of this evil group, then it is considered that the world will determine that. The male protagonist must stop them at all costs so that the other variables did not arise. However, the passageways and connecting halls in the basement were much more complicated than calculated. This gave the leader a bold idea, which was to punch holes in the partitions to get down quickly. Yo Woon decided to test it with sword energy, and as a result, he got down to the 6th floor by going through the ceiling. The head of the guy above was also carried and thrown straight at the remaining guys. Not only were the intruders shocked to see Yo Woon appear from the ceiling, but the guardians also had the same expression. Perhaps everyone felt the wind of happiness blowing when they saw the royal guard enter. Because of the military uniform that the leader was busy with, they mistakenly thought that it was His Majesty who sent a master of the army to quickly come here to support. With that thought, everyone's desire to survive was strong. Contrary to the feelings of the guardians, the 6 martial arts sect executive were stunned. A mediocre Kamwai guard who was neither martial arts nor proficient in any kind of martial arts killed the Copper group. Steel Blade Master couldn't hold back his emotions, and started rushing towards Yo Woon. You really are bold. Dare to interfere in my affairs. The guy who followed seemed more concerned in the face of excessive recklessness. This is hasty because no one has yet grasped what the stranger's level is. When the sword tip attacks dozens of orbits, sharp points are formed towards Yo Woon. Each the tip of the spear was only aimed at the same person. The guardians saw that and shouted out loud, "Get away from it quickly." Dealing with such an attack from close range is unavoidable. Imperial Palace Guardians Hall General thought to himself, he's taking it face on. I don't think I could deflect that attack even if I were in my best condition. What is he planning to do? Instead of listening, the male lead chose to confront. Should make the Spear Blade Master happily think. This technique is the pinnacle of spearmanship created on the foundation of Supreme Saber Divine Martial Arts. You won't be able to block. If you can't block it, then there's no way back to your family. And then the corner of Yo Woon's lips curled up. Although attacking the opponent without keeping emotions would surely have many loopholes. The spears pointing at Yo Woon were suddenly deflected and bounced off in all directions. It looked as if the spears had crashed into an invisible wall. On the opposite side, he was still very confident because he was the one who invented this move. The move he synthesized from stabs with a spear. But now what? It's no different than a martial arts cat scratching for nothing. What a bastard, did he repel all of my classy moves? Knowing that something bad was about to happen, the Spear Blade Master stabbed randomly and then proactively retreated into a defensive stance. That technique, it's the ultimate delightful murder blade, the 5th from the Supreme Saber Divine Martial Arts. How can a mere guard like him? Scared, he looked down at his crushed palm in horror. I can't defeat him even when I'm using 10-star QI. Even though he launched his strongest attack, he was the one injured, not Yo Woon. His hair was a mess and his eyes lost focus. You damn, who are you? How can a member of the Imperial Palace know our technique? Then suddenly his spear cracked and broke into 2 pieces. No wonder the cult leader decided to close the gap right now. You're wandering around so much. Like a ghost, the Spear Blade Master was startled, brandished his spear and stepped back. What Yo Woon used was something that only a few elders in the 6 martial arts, only the sect executive, can be used, making him fly away. What's going on? He disappeared from my sight. His aura is nowhere to be seen. I don't know how many times I was shocked when I saw the other person performed his knife skills and he wondered, is this person the same guy? He tried to increase the distance by swinging the broken spear and taking steps back. However, Yo Woon was faster, so he moved, leaving behind an afterimage. When approaching Spear Blade Master, he froze. Goosebumps appeared all over his body. He only had time to hear his comrades remind him, behind him, grandfather. A strange black aura rose from the spear master's fingers and blew in. His people. Dozens of illusory images appeared, not knowing which ones were real and which were fake, and their expressions did not change. Spear Blade Master tried to calm down and think. Each figure performed different moves. How could this be possible? When his head was aching, dozens of shadows merged into the leader and the cane of energy stabbed forward. This aura was extremely solid and penetrated straight through every move he could make the resistance. The Imperial Palace Guardians Hall all gasped when they saw that terrible martial art, because they never came out of Min Tai-Tu's tomb without knowing it. Flashed like a storm, the 6 martial arts sect executive masters' chest splattered blood and Yo Woon passed by like the wind. Up to this point, still no one in the 6 martial arts sect executive dared to interrupt and just let him collapse to the ground. When the pain rushed in, blood flowed from his mouth, but he still couldn't believe it. Tang Tang was one of the many masters of the 6 martial arts sect executive. How could he be assigned an important mission and yet nothing happened? Died in a few moves. At the leader's place, he calmly chatted under his breath, "Sorry, I'm very busy so I don't have time to tease you." He tried to mumble something to himself and then fell down the moment he fell to the ground. The Imperial Palace Guardians Hall clapped their hands loudly and screamed loudly. At first, the general thought he was a real guard, but now he has doubts. "I'm shivering. There was someone that skilled in the embroidered uniform guards. No, even the most powerful man of the guards doesn't possess that level of martial arts. Impossible. How could he die with just 2 moves?" Another sword wielder there couldn't hide his panic, even though the dead guy was known to be incompetent about the techniques of extreme swords, but he is talented in martial arts. If so, then what exactly is that guy's background? This confusion arises in their minds. Everyone will not be confused. It would have been so confusing if the cult leader hadn't used the extreme sword magic. At that moment Yo Woon turned towards the remaining guy. "You were the last one." The male lead's icy eyes stared at the intruder. Just meeting that look made him feel scared, shitting his pants. Those diagonal shots were weird. The front was no longer important to him. There was no need to fight when he knew he will lose. Death is the only result. Resisting such a person is truly foolish. He begins to have calculations but deliberately avoids the celestial demon cult leader. We need to lure him to the Bloodblade Master. In his eyes there was no way anyone other than the Bloodblade Master could defeat that person. Thinking about how to do that, this guy decided to move and run towards the woman who was entering the last floor. But as soon as he left after 3 steps, there was something terribly oppressive that made his legs unable to move. Something moved and he ignored it. It rushed towards the entrance, but a light suddenly appeared at the entrance of the walkway. However, after arriving, he couldn't say any more words. Dozens of ice swords flying in the air right at the entrance and all pointed towards him. Yo Woon stood leisurely at the back. XA coughed a few reminders. "You really thought you could run away?" The voice of the celestial sect leader reached your ears. Sadly, even his plan to live a little longer failed. Yet, however, before finding a way to run away, he did not know where those ice swords came from. Moreover, the fact that the leader of the great devil religion controlled many swords at once was extremely unbelievable. Seeing the layer of dust flying up, he quickly moved to the path leading to the final hall. That was the right choice. Instead of confronting that monster, we should have penetrated that layer of ice sword. But when it came time where he was shocked after seeing the entrance blocked, dozens of ice swords flying in the air right at the entrance and all pointing straight at. He shouldn't be able to move while using the chi-controlling sword. He decided to use his strongest move to break all the ice swords. That's it. In the end, those swords are made of ice. They can't stop my ultimate move. However, Yo Woon is not human normally. With the help of NANO, he could control the ice sword and move at the same time. Just when he turned his head because of a voice from behind, why did he reveal the opening behind him? So, a white sword pierced his neck. It was too close for him to dodge. His eyes were full of life and hope. Thinking he could run away turned into despair. Seeing the intruder's head roll, the general manager couldn't help but admire. It's amazing, there is such a peerless master in this world. The identity of the royal guard is no longer important and he feels lucky that the monster Hay is their ally. Confronting that powerful bitch back then has a high chance of being very successful. He said, "It's been quite a while since the woman went down, and if they move quickly could stop her from touching the treasure." Thinking then this person shouted to speed up before things got worse. But no, Yo-woon approached without saying anything, making the great guard confused and began to worry. "Listen. Sir, something is wrong with this atmosphere. Instead of sheathing his blade he's giving off a strange killing intent." Yo-woon raised his sword and said, "What should I do? I'm not your ally either." Before possible in response, the male protagonist slashed his head without warning. Immediately the warriors who were cheering and believing that he was an ally sent by the emperor collapsed and became motionless when they saw the head fall. "Earth!" They all shouted, "Sir, what the hell are you doing?" Yo-woon turned around and asked the survivors, "Do you still think we are in the same boat?" The leader of the celestial demon sect raised his sword and pointed it at them and said with an authoritative voice, "I am the master of the 10,000 Great Mountains." The 10,000 Great Mountains is another term for the celestial demon sect. Their eyes widened as they looked at Yo-woon at the obvious truth that he said. But that was not the end of the rain of blood that had passed. From now on anyone still breathing would forever stay here. The scene moved again to the Imperial Palace Guardians Hall prison. Unlike Yo-woon who went straight down, Hiob went to another path. There were two bodies wearing only underwear and their bodies were so bruised that unrecognizable. Yo-woon cursed, "To hell with the Imperial Palace." These people wearing only underwear were not only tortured, all the fingernails and toenails were pulled out and he could see the marks their bodies were beaten with an iron bar. Those bodies were none other than members of the celestial demon sect. It seemed like they had been severely tortured and died because of it. Another person in the team was lucky to be alive but was no different from a dead body. He knew it was a bad fate but he thought he was mentally prepared to accept death. During his mission, there is any expression of fraternal mourning, please do not show such a sad expression on your face. Those assigned to act as spies from the shamanism do not have family or close relatives. Because of the missions their job is to hide as spies and assassins or gather intelligence. They are like shadows who only live and work silently for the devil, and in a way, the deaths and events. The sacrifice was not completely in vain. Yo-woon is not the type to show anger, and since becoming the leader he has tried his best to control his anger. However, after discovering the bodies of the ill-fated subordinates tortured to death in the prison cell, the male lead's eyes immediately yearned to kill. Thinking so and looking at the burning corpses, Hiob worried about them. Patriarch, he knows the boss is very strong, but in this place, it is impossible not to predict what will happen. At that moment vibrations appeared as if the underground was experiencing an earthquake. It was not strong enough to cause the place to collapse, but the movement of the walls could be seen with the naked eye. Easily understand better, it's not just a vibration, it's a type of energy, a force that vibrates the whole basement. Yo-woon was worried and became even more impatient because the situation was no longer as originally planned. He reminded the only surviving subordinate to clean up everything and then be allowed to return, and I went to find the demon lord real quick. Then on the last floor, the 7th floor, there was a hidden treasure trove to enter. To get here, that person will have to overcome a maze full of deadly traps. How to break into here from above will be impossible, because this maze is designed to self-destruct when someone tries to climb up. There are countless traps hanging above the head, but with the 6 martial arts sect people executive, these things are as easy as eating porridge. There is no need for the Bloodblade Master to take action because the guy next to him personally destroyed all the traps in the maze. And as a result, they reached the end of the maze without losing much time. As they moved there was a barrier placed on the path and an exit right below. Passing through the exit a space half the size of the hall, the 6th floor appeared before their eyes. As soon as they crossed the board indicating the exit, both felt a heat wave. At the end of the hall there was a lake that wasn't very big, but it seemed like the water inside wasn't water but molten lava. What was really interesting was a rock. The rock juts out like a small island in the middle, and this rock has a big fire burning on it. This is why the humidity of the last floor is higher than the floors above. Suddenly the fire is strange. Was distracting them when a voice rang out to wake them up. Who dared to put dirty feet here? It was hard to know where that voice came from. The unknown energy came from the giant fire began to increase, causing the temperature of the hall to increase as well. The Bloodblade Master did not back down, then opened his mouth and screamed, "You bastard, are you the last doorman or something?" The person following her also realized that person must be a woman. Clearly this is a game cursing to make the opponent show his face. Will this tactic to provoke the general be effective? What an arrogant person seems to be very brave, daring to target the palace treasures. How many times are you planning to hide in there? Long time, get out of here. I'm not afraid of you, or are you too ugly to do that? The war between women is like this, but it seems that this method is not very effective, right? When the man was trying to think about what was going on when he saw a black figure moving behind the fire. However, he still wondered, is there any way to stay in there without burning to death? Just then the black shadow behind the giant flame began to slowly pass and move forward. How did that person go out and walk into the middle of the fire like it was nothing? I had to rub my eyes carefully to see clearly. The whole body was covered with nothing but a terrifying fire of rage. The Bloodblade Master didn't seem very interested at first, but her expression now looked as if she wanted to rush into a deadly battle. The energy from the flame body was very violent and aggressive. Then the flames surrounded her body, gradually subsided, revealing the appearance of a human being. They thought the entire body would be burned black by the fire, but a monster with red scales appeared. The whole body was covered in layers scales. She was naked and not covering her body. What a beauty, because her body was perfect with perky breasts and a tiny waist. The red scales covering her whole body disappeared, and gradually appeared white skin, covering her body from chest to thighs. Unbelievable. When this person is the last checkpoint where the so-called hidden power from the royal palace is guarded. Just looking at her face is enough to seduce any man in this world. Protector ignored the man's lewd gaze, then looked towards the Bloodblade Master. I thought you were all very special, turns out it's nothing at all. A gravekeeper like that, there's nothing arrogant about her, unlike her brown-skinned superior who only thinks she's beautiful but her beak is a bit mixed up. After hearing that people, the woman in the fire seemed to be aware of being called ugly. I am someone who has guarded the treasure of Dai Min for a long time because of the deal we made with the first emperor. A thief like you has no right to slander arbitrarily. Encountering a beautiful woman who lived during the founding emperor's time, creating a confusing feeling for the sect master who accompanied. The Bloodblade Master's eyes were dissatisfied with the past has become sparkling. A person's lifespan, even reaching the pinnacle of martial arts, has a limit, and up to now there is not a single superpower left that has survived the rule of time. But Ran Yun has lived 200 years in that youthful form. There is only one possibility that she has achieved immortality. Your eyes are filled with greed and you are just fools stupid. With this person, those who come to take the treasure must be killed. So without exception, sparks began to rise from Ran Yung's arms, as if she wanted to burn all those in front of her. According to the agreement, if you agree, I will kill all the thieves who have entered this place. What a huge source of energy is formed. There is also the animation of a dragon. Once you step in here you will not be able to return outside. The fire is so intense that even strong masters in martial arts can't stand it. Ran Yun shot the death straight to the position where the other two were and said, both of you die together in peace. Naturally brave, the brown guy was immediately stood in front of the Bloodblade Master and raised his voice to take over the defense. The steel sword with a rather thick blade, he tried to stop the fire. Even though his movements were urgent, he used his strongest moves to neutralize that attack. But the flames were clinging to the blade. Because it was too hot, so he let go of the sword and said, damn it. Very quickly, intense heat invaded the hand holding the sword. Even though he sincerely wanted to protect the Bloodblade Master, the heat was so terrible that his hand now had no feeling anymore. He tried to back away, took a few more steps, but the fire kept moving in the gap and the fire continued to spread from his hands to every part of his body, and now painful sounds rang out. Do you think you can dodge it? Flames of I know how to chase my prey to the ends of hell. Bloodblade Master is behind her, preparing to attack. Bloodblade Master quickly wriggled from behind and slashed Ran Yung's neck. Ran Yung suddenly jumped back to avoid that sudden attack. Bloodblade Master thought to himself, I thought I managed to slit her throat in on more, but she managed to evade my attack even from that distance. Ran Yung thought, she is too fast. I tried to burn you to death all at once, but instead, I ended up evading your attack. Is known as the true hidden power of the palace. As long as she is alive, no one can take away the treasure. It has been 20 seasons of Bon Chung. Today Ran Yung just met a worthy opponent. Knowing that the opponent is a formidable person, the Bloodblade Master turned to look at his subordinate's injuries and reminded, "I'll take care of that woman. You need to circulate your chi," he replied, "I understand." He started to meditate and think, "I almost got caught in the flames without a chance to react. I didn't think there could be another monstrous woman like the Bloody Mistress. It's surprising." Heat radiated from his body, hoping he could avoid getting involved with the two crazy women at the moment. A strange sound was coming from above, while he began to focus on his destiny. Gas and looked towards the source of the noise. The ceiling began to crack and rocks began to fall, perhaps created by the direct punches of the other battle. Even though he wanted to avoid it, the moment with bad luck, a martial artist won't be able to do anything. A series of earthquakes rang out and dozens of tons of rocks fell on that guy's body. Bloodblade Master just punched each other with his opponent and also took a moment to scream, "Vice Leader, are you still alive?" She screamed until she was hoarse, but there was no response, so I thought, what an idiot. Ran Yung looking towards the suddenly collapsed ceiling. When the dust gradually cleared, they saw the silhouette of a handsome young man, standing on stacked rocks. Arranging clothes, Ran Yung himself realizing the high possibility that it must be the royal guard. The person coming down from the ceiling is a young man with a bright white face and is none other than Yo Woon. In the same way as passing through other floors, the celestial demon sect leader also punched this hall and went down to the last floor. When he saw two beauties glaring at him, Yo Woon slyly spoke up, "Luckily I wasn't late." With sharp instincts that are always honed, Ran Yung is sure that the person in front of her was not a normal person. She could not feel that person's internal strength, which meant that he had perfect internal control to the point that others could not fathom, and that he was strong beyond calculation. "I thought everything was easy, but I was wrong," Bloodblade Master thought. "Things were better when fighting one-on-one with that woman, but now there's another bad guy, she can't stand the guard. And Yo Woon wears the clothes of a royal guard, so she wonders if the two will be allies, and working together will probably be dangerous." On the other hand, it's not just the Bloodblade Master just frightened by the stranger's sudden appearance from the ceiling. Ran Yung was also wary of his actions and appearance, because he had never heard of any experts among the guards. The two women. The women made the same decision, with eyes filled with extreme vigilance, then looked at Yo Woon. At the same time they attacked him as if they had decided in advance. Perhaps to prevent the young man from helping either side, the defeat must be quick. But both realized that they were wrong when the leader stretched out his left hand to pull out the white dragon knife. The blade suddenly appeared. And on the right, the male lead also proactively revealed the heavenly demon sword. Ran Yung was surprised and wondered, what on earth is that white blade? The black armor that looked like it was protecting the wrist quickly separated and formed the black sword. Bloodblade Master was also quite surprised and wondering, where did that black sword come from? Both knew from the beginning that the other would not be an easy opponent, and their thinking was right. Despite that strange phenomenon, Ran Yung quickly approached and thought, he's neutralizing my flames with his cold energy. Not only that, he is also blocking my attacks and keeps finding openings. And on the right side attacked the Bloodblade Master, she thought, handling both the sword and the blade with both hands. Both Ran Yung and the Bloodblade Master thought, this guy is dangerous, have to use full power. Red scales began to form on Ran Yung's body, and fire wrapped both arms. The places where scales had begun to form were soon emitting sparks on the body. The heat radiating was incomparable to before. Although the white dragon knife contained ice energy, it read red because he couldn't stand that heat. When the sword turned bright red, the heat transmitted to his palm also made Yo Woon frown and think, she's driving out the cold energy of the white dragon sword with such an intense strike. This is incomparable from a moment ago. Ran Yung said, "Hey you, the one wielding cold energy, why don't you try blocking this as well?" The 12 hellfires were quickly used by her. When the leader, the demon, was able to neutralize that combination attack, the two of them became even more cautious and cautious. Bloodblade Master was frowning, surprised by the technique Yo Woon was using. 12 blade arts emerged around, and then fly towards the same direction. The Bloodblade Master felt that the situation was not good, so he started to launch a new sword attack. That was the 5th technique, supreme saber, divine martial arts, ultimate delightful murder blade, a strong stream of energy rising around her when she used it. The sword slashed dozens of times from the lower back. The explosion echoed throughout the last floor, and the pressure from the floors above was about to fail. Blood Blade Master stepped back to take a defensive stance. And she thought, such tremendous power. With this, Ran Yung said, he must be ashes by now, I won't even need to check, but why did she attack the embroidered uniform guard? Ran Yung thought, it wasn't intentional, but it ended up being a joint attack with that woman. Blood Blade Master wondered why Ran Yung also killed that person, then asked, that man just now, wasn't it you who brought him here? Ran Yung turned around and loudly denied, what nonsense are you saying, wasn't it you who brought him here? After knowing the answer, both of them were confused. Understanding learned that the opponent was not anyone's ally. This was not the case they expected and thought, it was lucky to have killed that counterfeit royal guard. Ran Yung, after knowing that man's name, not that woman's ally, she immediately thought, then who was he? Should I have asked before killing him? There must not even be a corpse left by now. Both came to the conclusion that Yo Woon must be an ally to any of them. The danger passes, and now it's a battle between the most formidable women in the world. The appearance of a stranger makes the Bloodblade Master think, it's my time, there's not much left. It needs to be resolved quickly. Ran Yung took Kirin blood and escaped from the palace. Ran Yung's skin was covered with red scales. A disdainful smile appeared and said, how arrogant, you'd only have been matched for me had you fought me along with that man. Both hands were raised and the fireball rose again. It was no different from the attack she used to attack the celestial demon cult leader. On the opposite side, Bloodblade Master was very confident and said, you think something like that will work on me? Ran Yung replied, who knows, I'll know once I try it out. Before fighting, the senses of the two beauties felt something strange happened, and out of the smoke and dust appeared the figure of the celestial demon cult leader. The demon sect leader appeared with angry eyes. Both were surprised by the reappearance of the man they thought was gone. Yo Woon appeared to teach beautiful women how to punch each other, and the two women suddenly looked at the rising energy source. The smoke was still rising up until now, but a strange flow of energy sent chills down their spines. Ran Yung stood in a defensive position and looked at the energy source in front of her, wondering, Black Frost, the entire place is not with my flames. How is the floor in that area frozen? What to do when faced with this strange phenomenon? The two experts looked at the place where the energy source was emitting. Finally the smoke cleared and there was a shadowy figure. Amazingly, from the smoke, instead of turning into dust, the male protagonist stood tall. The burns and cuts on his body quickly healed. Bloodblade Master was startled and turned around thinking, how the hell is he still alive? But he's injured, his armor's damaged, and there are a lot of cuts on him. But something strange hit those scared eyes. Such regeneration speed made Ran Yung's expression stiffen. What? His injuries are healing. What is with that ridiculous regeneration speed? It's much faster than my healing speed, and my healing speed is thanks to having consumed Kirin blood. Yo Woon spoke up while standing in front of the other two women. I didn't expect two people from the Imperial Palace Guardian and the Supreme Saber of Six Martial Arts Sect there to attack me simultaneously. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't take any more inner strength, because now it's the turn of the Celestial Sect leader to respond and show them how to be polite. Besides, he also said that he will join forces with others, causing the Bloodblade Master to nervously look around to check. There was no one around here. He wasn't confident enough to win, so he lied, or what? Yo Woon called the word NANO in his mind, asking to activate the boost virtual reality. To put it simply, NANO is no different than a martial artist, and even more than that. Nothing can explain. Bloodblade Master couldn't believe his eyes and exclaimed, what? Chi sword control. The two women were looking everywhere. White light particles began to form sword strokes around the large room. Augmented reality was activated. The sect leader raised his right hand forward and the blue light merged in the air, created Chi sword control. Ran Yung panicked and thought, you're telling me he's at the mystical realm? I have lived for over 2 centuries, but I have yet to come across a martial artist who has reached the mystic realm. But even if he's in that realm, there's no way he can control all of that. Swords are forming and surrounding the place where the cult leader stands. Bloodblade Master is surprised. This is no time to be standing in awe. I need to be logical about this. Even the Chi Bland Master, who's the most skilled when it comes to energy arts, cannot control more than 7 blades using chi sword control. As for Ran Yun, she is also scared but confident ironing. No matter how strong he is, there must be a limit to how much chi he has. That woman is my enemy, but for my own sake, I have to hope that she lasts long against him. Yo Woon started whispering. Nano activated the remote control function on the 12 air swords. On the screen, the swords now began to come into control. When the beep sounded, the target was in sight. Nano advanced the act of expanding vision, specifically the fatal weaknesses of the body. The feature is gradually reaching the completion stage and only the sect leader knows, but the other two know. They will faint from fighting. Then the male protagonist warned the shocked women in a calm voice, I will not disappoint you. 12 swords around, slowly move forward and split into 2 sides. 6 swords directed at each person. Ran Yun used 12 eternal flames to defend. It was a breathtaking scene as the swords quickly approached and collided with each fireball. The reason for her to launch the fireballs was to intercept the sword energy because he wanted to cause an explosion to destroy it at the same time. However, Ran Yun was extremely surprised and thought, the swords sliced through the flames, he really can control all those blades. And a loud explosion rang out. With a crack in the ground, red lava began to flow and soon a pillar of fire rose high. Ran Yun realized in shock, no matter. The flame pillars made with my innate core energy cannot be destroyed even with enhanced energy. Yo Woon chuckled, as expected. Sword energy was only capable of piercing and cutting. Sword energy that could not penetrate the pillar of fire began to circle as if it had its own consciousness. Ran Yun began to panic and commit suicide, asked why those swords stopped. Yo Woon simultaneously activating 3 techniques of the Heavenly Demon Sword Art and 3 techniques on the 24 Demonic Sword Technique on the 6 swords being controlled through Chi Sword Control. And the situation changed. When 6 swords with different moves continuously attacked the firewall, punctures began to appear. Many swords penetrated and rushed forward. Ran Yun urgently reacted as flames burst from both hands. That was not just an ordinary fire. Ran Yun clenched her fist, showing determination. I won't go down so easily. Ran Yun's face darkened. She was swinging her hands to fight against those swords. Heavenly Demon Sword. The method is said to be the top set of techniques in shamanism. That seemingly sturdy wall of fire collided many times with the sword energy, emitting a loud explosion that made the room shake and collapse. Even though it was not visible. Very enjoyable, but Ran Yun, the guardian of Kirin blood, had to work very hard to move to a safe place. Not allowing the opponent to rest, the sword pierced the smokescreen and continued to torment the beauty. Nano activated them so this will stop until the target is destroyed. Ran Yun frowned and thought, no way. In that short span of time, he managed to. Ran Yun's eyes suddenly caught something while focus on blocking the swords. Defenseless like Ran Yun, Bloodblade Master is trying his best to block the swords. Bloodblade Master is facing attacks from 6 swords of energy and running out, trying to keep herself from being hit by it. She wondered, impossible. He's using sword techniques while using Chi sword control. Bloodblade Master exclaimed, it's as if I'm fighting 6 expert martial artists at once. I can T-block this. Bloodblade Master fell down and thought, each one of these techniques are more complete than the Supreme Saber Divine Martial Arts, but why does it feel so familiar? Bloodblade Master gritted his teeth and realized, right, that old geez, one of those old geezers that stopped us, the Supreme Saber of 6 martial arts sect, from expanding our influence further into the Jianhu. His sword techniques are very similar to that old geezer that revealed himself as the founding cult leader of the demonic cult. No, actually, this man's techniques are absolutely flawless compared to that old man's. Then this bastard must be of the demonic cult. But I heard that there is only one person who can use this technique at this point in time. She finally found out the identity of the guy dressed as a royal guard of Dai Min. Handsome face. Long hair smooth as an 18-year-old girl. It's not anyone else. I'm certain, his appearance is just as our spies in the demon cult described. Bloodblade Master gritted his teeth, frowned and was sure of his guess, the very person responsible for ruining our plans multiple times, the head of the demonic cult. He is the head of the demonic cult, Cheon Yo Woon. Bloodblade Master bit her lip hard because she recognized the demonic cult leader. She wondered how, according to our plans, he should have stayed in the demonic cult because of suspicions of spies from the Imperial Palace or would have been preparing for the Dragon Boat Festival. Damn, I have to let that person know our plan has gone wrong, but I can't really do anything at the moment. Need to inform the Sword Master that the plan has failed, and accept the punishment, but before she thinks about it, that means we have to leave here first. Bloodblade Master will die if he makes any wrong decisions in this dangerous situation. Never imagined that I would be in such big trouble, and then the attack became even stronger. I can't stop the flame chi because I'm focusing all my energy to stop his attack. She saw the image of Ran Yung defending with other swords. At this rate, then the two of them will collapse, and who knows when the leader will run out of energy. She wonders, what can she do? How can she overcome this hopeless love, and the treasure will be thrown aside? Then this idea came into her mind. That's it. There should be Gilen's blood in this pond. It might not take effect right away, but since it's the blood of a spiritual beast, it might amplify my inner chi. The situation is not very good. I have no other choice but to take a gamble. Bloodblade Master was very excited and quickly grabbed the sword in his hand and then performed Extreme Blade Divine Art. 7th movement, 8 immortal blades clash. The move she just used was passed down by the master not long ago, but I have to do it again for peace of mind. My blade strikes have created a gap in his enhanced chi controlling sword. It splits into 8 afterimages. Masters often refer to this blade attack as 8 immortal blades clash. The afterimage of the 8 swords spread out instantly and created a devastating force that pushed the rushing swords into the gap, revealing the happy Bloodblade Master turning to the exit. Kiran Blood was right behind her. She didn't hesitate for a moment, continuing to cast it to create more distance. Just as the Bloodblade Master was about to turn back, something cold brushed her arm. He himself affirmed that he had pushed the swords away, so what just passed by. Just looking at it was enough to understand. Yo Woon offered a very high price. The arm holding the sword was cut off and fell with a thud. On the ground, she was in immense pain. The scream echoed throughout the collapsing space. Even if you were the master of one of the 6 powerful masters, losing a body part wouldn't hurt, right? How could the leader of the great demon god sect sit still while the enemy plotted a sinister trick? The 6 swords flew back and surrounded them, waiting for orders. Bloodblade Master's face was more unsightly than ever. Finally, when I saw the leader's unfamiliar expression, it was as if this happened every day. This guy was more dangerous than the information the secret police had given me. He really exceeded my limits. People. Although she can still use her left hand to hold a sword, it cannot compare to her right hand. Even if he is a monster, there must still be loopholes. If I attack now, everything will end here. Before the Blade Master can gather internal strength, the left arm also follows the call of the right arm. Bloodblade Master's scream is enough to tear the viewer's eardrums, and the body part is falling into the lava flow, melting. The only remaining arm severed, Yo Woon said heartlessly to the painful and confused woman, "It seems like I warned you not to play nonsense, but..." Thought it was the other person. She let down her guard, but it turned out to be a stupid thought. She smiled bitterly. Someone who has reached the highest realm, the mystical realm, but is still wary of an armless woman like me. The male protagonist? Having accumulated experience after confronting strong enemies in the past, one of the things I have learned is to never let my guard down until the enemy is dead. Come to think of it, you're still the master of the 6 martial arts sect. What a disappointment. The physical pain didn't last long. The enemy looked at the master with hatred and screamed and rushed forward, risking his life. As if forgetting the pain, she gritted her teeth like a crazy person. Her jaw opened to bite Yo Woon a few times. The demon sect leader controls the sword energy and handles the rest. The 6 swords received the command, or more accurately, NANO aimed and stabbed at her body from all directions. That ruined body, trying to keep it steady, but then due to too much blood loss she also fell down. Her purpose Bloodblade Master was able to find the Kiran blood lake, but his body was so broken, I don't know if death called or not. Zone of the 6 martial arts sect masters, was brutally killed by sword energy, died tragically before falling into the bubbling lake. Thanks to that, Yo Woon had a closer look. How could he live after being seriously injured and falling down? But it's a bit strange how it boils forever. Even though he's not injured affected by that heat, but the male protagonist still felt the temperature, so he decided to take a few steps back. NANO also informed in his mind that the donor's internal energy balance was 38%. Still knows this clearly, and even after reaching a high realm, such powerful attacks still cause internal strength to drop uncontrollably, and also that person who is like a moving torch, she endured the extreme sword longer than the master. In the past, Yo-woon once met a woman whose body was so cold that it was deadly, and now she met a woman whose body was so hot that it burned her whole body. Ran Young is struggling to cope with the sword energy that is being used. Controlled by NANO, however, she still knows how to defend herself better than the Bloodblade Master. It's a natural thing to have to deal with 24 demon swords and heavenly demon sword techniques, which are exerting extreme energy. Big Yo-woon has time to observe, and it's even more confusing. Her recovery ability isn't as good as that of NANO, but she's recovering. Has she been holding on like that? I guess she's similar to that person called Second Guardian. For a normal person, that alone is very commendable. The matter is over. The celestial demon sect master pulls up the 6 swords below, wanting to end this arduous exploration work. Will the hot woman literally burn? What is the fate? A familiar voice rang out. The sound came from the opposite end of the entrance. Hiob Bong, his younger brother, was now being suppressed, held at knife point by someone from the 6 martial arts sect into the neck. Before that, if you had paid attention, he would have died immediately when Yo-woon punched the upper floor, but God had created many more difficult circumstances. That guy's left arm was crushed, and could not be used due to bad luck. The aura was destroyed by the celestial demon cult leader. Hiob Bong was the one who ran down immediately after hearing the explosions coming from the lowest floor, but shame on him for not helping the boss and doing a 1,000-pound dumbbell that's hard to carry. Even though he really wanted to help, suddenly the other guy jumped out from the pile of rubble, and that's how it happened. Hiob Bong was trying to buy time when he skewered him right in the shoulder. My body has reached the most basic level, to stand in the ranks of the 6 swords, but now compared to someone holding a knife to my neck, how can I resist? If you are bad at it, your head will go away. Talk quickly, everyone. What is the relationship between the two? Because he didn't hear about the Bloodblade Master fighting with the demon cult leader, he now needs to find out the information, but his breathing is too rapid because of the injury and his arm is crushed. Like that, because of a moment of neglecting, Yo-woon took advantage of the opportunity and approached to rescue his trusted subordinate. The main man so quickly that the brown-skinned assistant didn't even notice. Luckily he had time to raise Hiob Bong's face to shield him, so his life was temporarily saved. I still have a little more time left. If the Bloodblade Master can't do anything, how can a small assistant take on the task assigned by the master? Looking at the way Yo-woon deals with the 2 women, I'm sure I can't escape. The mood in the hall didn't seem good, and then the celestial demon sect leader couldn't calm down anymore. He used voice transmission and leaned into his ear, asking to let him go. That sound, it's so cold that it's suffocating. Even though it's terrible, there's no way to think about it. If you take action, I'll let this guy die. Even though the distance between the 2 sides was different, it felt like the swords were ready to kill him at any moment. He tried to act calmly and swallowed his saliva without even realizing he was trembling. The atmosphere became even more suffocating, and Yo-woon certainly would never intend to give in, so in the end he decided to act, which meant there was no chance of retreat. If he wanted to save this guy, then quickly bring out the Kirin blood. I promised to release him without losing a single hair. Even though I'm not sure if the threat will work or not, it's the only option, and Yo-woon also made a good suggestion. Threatening or intentionally teasing the demon sect leader is something no one dares to do. The people of the 6 martial arts sect have made a mistake. The sect leader has promised that if he releases his disciple, he will die peacefully. If not, then make a wish for yourself. Never been born in this world. Hearing the unsatisfactory answer, the assistant's heart sank, thinking he would be able to calm down and bring the blood back safely, but this was just one mistake after another. In a short moment, Hiob Bong immediately used his elbow to forcefully push back the person who was oppressing him. Perhaps he regretted being a burden to the leader, and the other guy was also aware of the situation. His aura rose to its peak at the danger of the martial artist, feeling that he had to follow the purest instincts of a human being. Yo-woon's eyes also trembled for the first time when he saw the scene of the subordinate he loved. Precious died. The small, sharp blade gently passed through Hiob Bong's throat and blood shot out from there. The whole body collapsed to the floor. A pool of blood drenched the body and the body also jerked due to nerve reactions. Yo Woon's eyes looked like he was about to go crazy and scream in anger when his subordinate's throat was slit. The sword guard felt very regretful. He blamed it on his natural reflexes and that attitude, who wouldn't panic. Yo Woon couldn't hold back his anger. He swung his sword and rushed in front of the guard. A black sword in the air moved at extremely fast speed, and his arm holding the knife that killed Hiob Bong was cut off. Now there were no conditions left to ensure safety and death was gradually encroaching. Take him. Shut your mouth, for this is only the beginning, don't you dream of dying easily. An aura so strong that anyone who stands in your way must bow, he heard the demon cult leader say, yet surprised. The leader of the heavenly demon sect frantically hacked and slashed to relieve his anger, but that alone would not be enough. He repeatedly begged to stop, but in the end he could only purse his lips, close his eyes, and realize the sharpness of the heavenly devil sword. If he had a wish, the subordinate of the extremely sword would wish someone to kill him already. He was lonely and suppressed the ruthlessness of the cult leader and cursed under his breath, this fucking lunatic. He gritted his teeth and endured Yo Woon's torture of his body, silently cursing, this fucking demonic son of a bitch. He's cutting me while avoiding my vital areas on purpose. Yo Woon only wanted to torture the victim, so he deliberately stayed away from those things. Weak point. It took a while to give many scars. The leader grabbed the opponent's skull. I said, you will regret it, but you still dare to do so. Each finger is gradually penetrating the classroom. The solid bones of the head made the other guy scream in pain. Although he really wanted the onion to last longer, NANO announced, the user has his 15% energy left. You can no longer maintain the enhanced chi controlling swords. Internally, the energy consumed to maintain the sword energy was beyond his imagination. If NANO consumed more energy, then Yo Woon would be in danger when facing the rest, and Ran Yung realized the situation. His swords are disappearing. She let go of the burden without hesitation and approached the leader. Ran Yung walked towards the demon cult leader. He was dealing with the guy who murdered his subordinate. He turned around and saw Ran Yung walking towards him and cursed, damn. I wanted to inflict more pain on this bastard, but there's no time. In order not to waste time, the male lead firmly stabbed the white dragon knife into the ground. His internal force flowed into his palm to tear apart the villain who murdered Hiob Bong. He felt death ahead eyes, but still trying to use his body to protest. This is the kind of pain no one wants to face. Even if God has an epiphany, he will shake his head. The screams did not end there. Yo Woon held his shoulders, then flexed his muscles and his head away from his body. Along with his head, the spine was also torn apart, creating an extremely horrifying scene on the screen. He didn't feel anything because he was warned it would be a painful death, the most painful and cruel. The cult leader threw his head to the floor and immediately reached towards the ground to grab the white dragon sword. He held it tightly and then turned to continue fighting with Ran Yung until she was crushed, and that was it. The situation looked like he wanted to attack, but then suddenly Ran Yung knelt down. Yo Woon was surprised by this situation. Ran Yung remained silent and used the most respectful attitude, and fortunately the leader stopped his actions. She looked up, said happily, even though the demon cult leader's sword was still pressed against her neck, why are you so late? I, a lowly devotee of the great heavenly demonic cult, greeted my heavenly lord. Ran Yung bowed her head and shouted up. Yo Woon looked surprised and wondered, for a master of the imperial palace's guardian hall to claim to be a member of our demonic cult. What trick are you trying to pull? Ran Yung replied, I know that this is an unbelievable situation and you have every right to be suspicious. I also want to tell the bottom of the story, but don't you have more urgent work right now? Hiob Bong is lying motionless on the floor. Ran Yung continued, that's true. Checking Hiob Bong's condition takes priority. Seeing how I can still feel him with my chi sense, it's not too late yet. Temporarily ignore that hot beauty. Yo Woon immediately ran to check, but didn't forget to tell Ran Yung, don't even think about doing anything funny. He gently turned Hiob Bong's body towards him. His body was drenched in blood flowing from his neck. At the murdered position, blood splattered a lot, and in this situation the priest could only cover it with his hands and scream, come to your senses, Hiob Bong. Hiob slowly opened his eyes and his voice whispered, "My lord." Is like a person on the brink of death. His eyes are fading and his body is gradually getting cold, trying to moan for the monarch. Hiob wants to say the last word to the boss who is right in front, but it was too difficult. His neck was cut and all he could do was force out the words, "My lord," and he closed his eyes with tears flowing from his eyes. Seeing Hiob closed his eyes, Yo-woon used his hand to stop the blood from flowing from his neck and shouted, "No, Hiob, do you think I will let you die?" Yo-woon concentrated his internal strength in his hands. The male lead's intention was to close the wound on Hiob's throat in a way that burned it with heat. When he touched his throat, a scream filled with pain emitted from him. Although he tried to heal the cut area, the knife went too deep. Yo-woon ordered NANO, "Please scan this person's condition for me." The system works and the leader is quite cautious. When Ran Yung wanted to come and watch with him, Yo-woon warned that if you want to live, don't come close. But Ran Yung still approached and sat down near the demon cult leader and spoke. "I know you have no choice but to be wary of me, but since the life of a devotee you brought is in danger, could you please leave it to this lowly subordinate?" NANO is not sure whether Hiob is still alive or not. Yo-woon is confused by Ran Yung's request for help and said, "What are you trying to do?" Ran Yung replied, "I will need your help, my lord. I need the help of the leader. When I am ready I will immediately explain to you." Ran Yung put Hiob down near the lava lake and get some of the liquid in there. Perhaps thanks to that fireproof ability, the water could not burn her and quickly brought it to Hiob to drink. Yo-woon was quite curious and immediately understood, this is dilutio blood of gilen. Yo-woon looked at the table wondering, this clear water is gilen's blood. Ran Yung explains, originally, the flame chi in the blood of gilen was so strong that it could not be touched. However, the founding emperor of the Great Ming Empire used the millennial snow from the North Sea to cool it down and it barely turned into this. The leader's face softened and asked her, "So, what do you want to do with this?" Then Ran Yung continued to explain, gilen's blood, even if diluted, is very effective in regenerating damaged bodies. Ran Yung continued, however, the flame chi is still very strong for normal humans to withstand. I saw that you possessed near extreme yin cold chi. Could you put some of your cold chi into this gilen's blood? Yo-woon looked at his brother and asked, "Doesn't that mean it's dangerous for Hiob?" Ran Yung replied, "It's true if he consumes a large amount. But if he takes a small amount with cold chi added, it's definitely possible." Yo-woon's hand started to move and think, it sounds like she has never tried it herself. I know there's no other option right now, so I'll give it a try, but can I trust her? Yo-woon reached out his hand and the cold ice that was flowing into the thin gilen blood also cooled down. As the steam rose, Ran Yung smiled with satisfaction because now the heat had dissipated. They approached Hiob and Ran Yung said, "Then, I will help him drink it." The leader immediately nodded and she took the initiative to pour all the blood into her mouth. After that, Yo-woon's biological brother lost his first kiss to a beauty with a lifespan of up to 200 years. Hiob was actually unconscious, so this could also be considered the only way for him to survive. Drank all the diluted gilen blood. Gilen blood went down his throat and gradually dissolved in Hiob's body. The demon cult leader was quite surprised by this miracle. Looking at Hiob's gradual recovery, the demon cult leader exclaimed, "His neck injuries from the blade cut and my flame scorch are healing. To think even the diluted blood is this effective." Ran Yung spoke again, "My lord, please step away from him for a moment. From now on, the flame chi in his body will become stronger. I will control it so it doesn't explode." Yo-woon watched from afar and thought, what a surprise, to think gilen's blood has the power to regenerate damaged bodies. Suddenly Yo-woon sensed danger. He looked at the molten lake and thought, am I worried for nothing? That's where the Bloodblade Master's arm was cut off and her body sank. Is there anything to worry about? No matter how strong the regeneration effect is, can gilen's blood take anyone? That woman came back from the dead. The wounds on that woman's body had begun to heal and scales grew on those areas. The heat from top to bottom was too hot, but strangely the body should have been burned but looks rosy and looks 10 years younger. In a lifeless corpse with no signs of life, strange and sudden changes began to occur, and the changes happened very quickly. Finally, one of the 6 masters of the 6 martial arts sect had actually revived. On the surface of the lake at this time, Ran Yung was helping Hiob bong calm the outbreak of the reaction after drinking diluted gilen's blood. Ran Yung thought, his wounds have completely healed, his complexion and breathing have both returned to norma, and Ran Yung knows this is a good thing, but she wonders, why isn't anything happening to him? Is it because of the cold qi counteracting the flame qi? Those who take gilen's blood have a high change of going out of control because of the strong flame qi. Even among the women, there were people who lost their sense of pain or their lives due to the side effects. Over the past 200 years, Ran Yung has lived until now and still does not understand. All men except one who has consumed the gilen's blood have lost their lives, so why isn't he experiencing anything? Moreover, if drinking gilen's blood, the body will have to restructure to create flame qi, but in Hiob bong's body, she still can't see any red scales chief. She thought back over everything, and could it be that? Ran Yung thought, his energy core isn't large, but she can feel something ominous within him similar to the demon lord. Has he consumed the blood of another spiritual beast before? She concluded, in that case, this energy must be what prevents the gilen's blood from going amok. What a relief. And while yin and yang were combining, something unusual happened to Ran Yung's body. Ran Yung panicked. Wait, my innate true qi, which is connected to this person's dantian, can't be disconnected, as if it's been absorbed. Yo Woon standing outside also realized the situation was not good. It seemed like that beautiful woman was in trouble. Right. Suddenly there was a sound from below the lake surface. Something flew up high. The familiar aura and the severed left arm sprouting red scales was the Bloodblade Master. She was truly resurrected, so when she revived, the only target was Yo Woon, who had killed her before and created a huge explosion. Being surprised by the attack, the male protagonist quickly dodged the killer move and jumped to a corner to observe. Looking at Hiob bong's example, he further confirmed his suspicions. But she really came back to life. Has her left arm been reattached? The Bloodblade Master's right arm was severed, but is now being regenerated, not as fast as NANO, but that's good, she shouted. It's truly a blessing in disguise. I will repay you for all the humiliation from earlier. Yo Woon answered her, for someone who just came back from the dead, you are quite talkative, huh? I will definitely kill you this time. The sword energy is floating in the air, pointing in that direction, ready to end the life of the Bloodblade Master. Still a terrifying pressure ready to destroy any enemy that Yo Woon creates. However, like knowing that because she drank gilen's blood, the demon cult leader's opponent's strength increased to a dizzying level. She jumped up and down, ran left and right to avoid the sword qi. Bloodblade Master's body was stabbed and slashed through. In the most brutal way. More fatal wounds because the number of swords has doubled. Yo Woon wondered, if it was a normal person, she would open her mouth and die, but even if she hits the critical point, she still didn't scream at all. Despite being trampled until her skin was crushed, she still recklessly approached Yo Woon, and he said, I think if you lie still, breathing softly under the lake, you'll be lucky. He didn't lose his life. As soon as he warned, his movements were directed towards the chi-bending sword, and he ran back to chase the opponent's speed and did not forget to say a word. How foolish. Dozens of chi swords vibrated and shot off the ground. Kicked and quickly shot straight at the Bloodblade Master. The thrust amplitude was too high, increasing the sharpness, causing her to vomit blood. This scene looks very horrible. It seems like the blood on her body has been drained to the last drop. Because she no longer feels pain, with the anger that is raging, her left arm radiates heat, wanting to strangle Yo to death. Woon, do you think this is enough to kill me? Yo Woon uses his hand to block her attack, and NANO is signaling that the donor is running out of internal strength. If I die today, I will not complete the mission for you. Sect, I will make sure to bring you along with me. Yo Woon blocked the attack and thought, how persistent. Entering the mystical realm, Yo Woon has mastered countless magical moves. He spread his hands preparing to counterattack. Bloodblade Master was surprised and felt his body being affected by that attack. His aura just now was like a heat bomb, but it was as if cold water had been poured on her, causing her to kneel on the ground. She gritted her teeth and thought, how much inner chi does he have? Even though my inner chi has been strengthened with gilen's blood, I can't resist him. Bloodblade Master's current expression, one of the pillars of 6 martial arts sect, is simply a desperation. Before going into long-range combat, The feeling of heavenly demon energy was a bit meager, however when standing in front of the cult leader, she thought to herself, he's a top predator that I can never be against. The divine beast's aura inside the body is ringing a warning, this is a monster that cannot be confronted. In a life and death situation, the Bloodblade Master suddenly came up with a new idea. Fist swung it onto the floor, causing everything to move, so Yo Woon's force of impact was change. This was also in the calculation, so he didn't seem to be too surprised. Her intuition told her to go back. The lake is the only way to survive, as long as you recover, you can fight until morning. Her tired legs tried to walk as fast as possible, but at this point it was already useless. Yo Woon is a cautious person for his age, only when he confirms the enemy's death with his own eyes is he ready. Let down your guard. Bloodblade Master's case is quite rare, when the leader thought that the heat would burn her so she had a chance, but that's also why she personally closed the door to his fate. I, the leader of the church, held out my left hand and both hands moved as if pulling something. My right hand was ready to swing the white dragon knife filled with tension. Bloodblade Master tried to use one hand to hold onto the floor, but could not resist the deadly force and shouted, "Cheon Yo Woon, you fucking." Something sharp touched Bloodblade Master's neck before she could curse Yo Woon. The sword passed by her throat and then her head fell to the ground. No later than when the head kept rolling around like a ball being kicked back and forth. But it hasn't stopped there yet. Yo Woon knew the effects of Gilen's blood, so what needed to be dealt with was the head that still retained the expression and consciousness of the Bloodblade Master even though it had left her body. He stepped on the head and completely crushed it. That skull to make sure the opponent was dead. Blood splattered. At the same time in another place, a giant statue was built in Hangzhou, Zhejiang Province. The hooded man was sitting on a lotus and radiating a strange and unusual energy in front of the statue, while his subordinate stood behind, holding an open box, which contained ancient worms that were implanted into the Bloodblade Master's head. After a while of crying and tremblingly, the thing exploded in front of the other person's shocked witness. He hastily closed the lid of the red wooden box containing the worms and then cursed under his breath, "Damn it." He went to the person wearing a black robe and reported, "The Bloodblade Master's worm has exploded. What's inside that box is clear proof that 6 martial arts sect executives' mission to infiltrate the palace has failed." There was still no comment on this matter. The mummy could only swallow his saliva and look at the box again. Immediately the terrible and terrifying energy that person was sitting emitting was the reason behind his worry. Not sure what method the other guy used, only saw the box containing the corpse of the ancient worm flying up. And the person holding it was automatically knocked away, falling against the wall. The guy's mouth also suddenly vomited blood, uncontrollable. He felt he couldn't stand and didn't dare open his mouth, so he just hugged the floor to cover his mouth. He did so because he knew clearly that person hated him. Having to listen to excuses, he said, "What a bunch of useless people, let's change the plan." He ordered the scoundrel, "Summon the Flame Blade Master and the Mad Blade Master." He ordered, "Send them to Tong Xu County to support the Blade Master. I will not tolerate any mistakes in the grand plan this time." After completely solving the Bloodblade Master, the leader's eyes looked closely at something. Yo Woon heard a strange echo and wondered, this resonance. Yo Woon looked at the lava lake and asked, "Does it come from that flame?" Ran Yung replied, "It was said that the Gilen's fire was diluted with millennial snow." Yo Woon suddenly shivered and thought, "But why is the heavenly demonic chi fluctuating like this?" After feeling that resonance, he thought, "This is the first time since I accepted the cold chi from the 9 cold blood blockage." The cult leader had experienced something like this before, that is when receiving the ice energy from the daughter of one of the 5 strongest masters of martial arts. The male protagonist realized what its fluctuations meant. He laughed and said, "Could it be that it covets the energy inside? Aren't you being too greedy, heavenly demonic chi? This is as if the internal energy he has is not enough and it wants to absorb another power." Yo Woon rolled his eyes and something was about to appear. It was also from this thought that the afterimage of the old unicorn was formed, creating a giant monster's body. So this was exactly what the palace wanted to hide. The closer the demonic energy was, the more deadly it became. Reacting to that unicorn, Yo Woon laughed and thought, So this is the hidden power or the imperial palace. The heavenly demonic chi is fluctuating even more, as if responding to the manifested gilen. Yo Woon spread his hands and exclaimed, "There's no helping it, since you both aren't going to back down, I have no choice but to cut you down. Once I can't swallow it, I have to kick it down." Yo Woon pulled out the demon sword and rushed in to press it. The opposite side is Gilen's blood. It also really wants to swallow Yo Woon's breath. Yo Woon thinks, who would have thought it would be this hard? The demon sword can stand but the subject cannot, because all internal energy was used to use sword energy and then fight with the other two women. Feeling like each slash attack was like scratching an itch, the unicorn screamed and continued to dive deep below the lake surface. In the lake didn't have a single ripple. Yo Woon got closer and closer until he proactively stopped to guess the situation. It didn't even make any splash. In the case, that Gilen must also be a spiritual being like an Imugi. While gradually walking deeper, the giant fire began to rise higher, showing the refusal of the leader's bold approach. Fortunately, he was able to execute the conjuration technique in time, so he was able to dodge it in time. Receive your deadly bite from the unicorn of yesteryear. If it were still alive, then surely the power of the celestial demon sect leader would not be able to compete with you. Just that small remnant of soul is enough to make you miserable. Besides, using only the heavenly demon sword is not enough. Suddenly, due to fear of death, Yo Woon pulled out the white dragon sword at his waist to support the heavenly demon sword. Yo Woon felt a little reassured. It worked. The fire has died down, but it's only temporary. I must find its source of power. Temporarily everything is calmed, but only for a moment. Yo Woon understands, so it is necessary to find the source of this power. The consecration foot dharma can help the leader jump on the surface of the lake and gradually move to the center. Yo Woon gritted his teeth to counter the attack. Is it trying to hold on by emitting stronger flame chi? Even though he was protecting his body with ice, the fire was so hot that the leader's body could not withstand it. Yo Woon took that light with his hand and thought, what the, this sun-like light and flame chi, and he immediately called NANO. NANO immediately understood its meaning and did its job, activate light vision mode. Yo Woon can see it, the flame chi is coming from that first-sized ball. As his eyes adjusted to the light, Yo Woon saw a ball of fire and thought, the resonance has gotten more intense. It seems like it's afraid of the heavenly demonic chi. But can I absorb this energy? And he only has one option. If this is what the Six Blades Martial School is aiming for, it'd be better for me to take it. Return to the young and old couple. At this time Ran Yung is still treating Hiob. She found a foreign energy inside Hiob's person. The premonition is not good. She needs to cut off the connection to give it peace of mind. Ran Yung thought, my innate true chi, which is connected to this person's dantian, can't be disconnected, as if it's been absorbed. I don't have a good feeling about this. I must raise my energy and cut the connection off at once. The fire began to move from the healer's body towards the patient and slowly covered Hiob's body. Because he was afraid of losing all his strength, Ran Yung ignored Hiob, but in Hiob's body, things were continuously happening. New transformation. Because he was afraid of losing all his strength, Ran Yung ignored Hiob, but new changes were constantly happening in Hiob's body. Ran Yung exclaimed, impossible. That sinister engri is consuming my flame chi like a hungry ghost, and she was helpless. My flame chi being drained at an alarming rate. I have to scare that energy somehow. Ran Yung suddenly discovered something. Red scales appeared on Ran Yung's hands and she said, even my flame is. After swallowing all the fire on Ran Yung's body, Hiob's body gradually recovers. When that person receives this form, that is has advanced to the next realm. The aura spread throughout Hiob's body and Ran Yung was pushed away. Hiob started body reconstruction. The wounds on Hiob's body disappeared. Hiob looked much better and then the couple his eyes also slowly opened. He had known about this process before, but only in the way of looking after Yo Woon to avoid troublesome people. He thought he would die because of his teacher's duty, but now, oh God. Helping Hiob after so much effort. Hiob still didn't really believe in himself and thought, I have achieved body reconstruction, am I dreaming? A speechless emotion and Ran Yung calmly approached to congratulate the junior. When he was approached by a beautiful woman with red scales on her other hand, he gently made Hiob bong panic and called her the flame monster. Ran Yung slightly frowned angrily. Are these the first words you said to the person who saved your life and changed you a lot? Before he almost died, Hiob bong saw the leader fighting with this person, so it was no wonder he was wary of her. He jumped away. You saved me. How am I supposed to believe that? Well, it's up to you whether to believe me or not. More importantly, can you create flame in your body? This curiosity did not last long. When Hiob bong's arm was burning out of self-defense instinct, Ran Yung continued, I think you can do it. Recalling the feeling you had a while ago when your whole body was engulfed in flame and Ran Yung surprisingly thought about Hiob bong. He could manifest flames without even showing the scales. Ran Yung looked at Hiob bong and exclaimed, does that mean he's completely absorbed Gilen's blood? This is my first time seeing someone who could do that, and Hiob bong was happy because he created his own fire. That is a great achievement for the demon god religion in general and Hiob bong in particular. Ran Yung looked at Hiob bong and thought, to think he would use the flame chi like that, how cute. Then she added, just the first time, so it's normal because it feels good because in the long run there will be many more games. Then while watching Hiob bong do cat tricks, he suddenly froze. His mouth also seemed to be stammering incomprehensible words, causing Ran Yung to lose his happiness as well. What's going on? Are you already bored with fire? I don't know about this because Hiob bong used his fingers. The hand pointed at something behind the beautiful woman. At that moment a huge source of energy exploded inside the room, causing both of them to silently observe in fear. It's not a normal fire, it's a black fire. The heat was as high as 3,000 degrees, in the center of where Yo Woon stood when he wanted to swallow that fireball. If it weren't for the NANO to regenerate his body, the 24th generation demon sect leader would have turned into a pile of ash at this moment. Infinite temperature. Same size, that explains why no one can get it, but supported by ice air and NANO's regeneration speed is different. After the flame chi came in and broke the balance, the two energies started to fight for position. Steam began to rise from his body as the ice energy protected his body. Exposure to fire energy, accepting it too early was unintentionally putting Yo Woon in a dangerous position. Fire energy gradually entered, then the three types held a party together, creating countless violent conflicts. It has exceeded my Dantian's limit. At this rate, the unicorn spirit is very strong and it exceeds the limit of energy that Yo Woon can absorb. Ran Yung understood that the leader was in danger and shouted loudly, my lord.